West Idari was burning. How did it happen? Aduma cavalry had thundered through the shattered gates of the provincial capital, their long locks streaming behind them as they drove terrified green armored soldiers down the Grand Avenue. Firestones had crashed into buildings. Arrows had darkened the sky. Red guards had surged through the breach that the skilled catapulters of the monarch's legions created in disintegrating the city walls of West Idari. The once proud green banners of West Idari burned above streets choked with smoke, rubble, and the dead, no longer symbolizing the fruited plains of this rich province. Now a mute testimony to a defeated army, a terrified people, but the vanquish of one is the victory of another. General Uhsa-Lata was seen as invincible, a hero blessed by Mother Oto-Mani, or so the people would soon be told. The fate of High Lord Quan-Tu was sealed. Shackled and bloodied, he was dragged from his palace before the conquering general. But the defeated High Lord did not beg for mercy. He laughed bitterly and struggled against his captors.
You know the sovereign was never here. You destroyed my province because of your pucking lie.
Uhsa-Lata glared in silent anger. Quan-Tu stared back directly into his eyes.
You know I never kidnapped Oto-Mani.
Red circles of fire is hot. Don't just like, don't just subscribe. Hit that notify.
Chapter 24. The Defeated. 3 days earlier, at a Makana southern seaport watchtower, Tulu, Demdem, and the border sharpshooter who had struck Oto-Mani peered into the roiling waters of the South Sea. It was forbidden for any Makana citizen to cross or to fire a weapon outside of the sacred boundary line, but this did not prohibit sentries from looking outside the line in order to vigilantly guard against enemy intrusion. Tulu used binoculars to see if there was a trace of what became of Oto-Mani and Diodi. He commended the border guard, a member of the Circle of Memory, for his near-deadly aim. Still, Tulu was loath to admit Fumo's forces were more competent than his own life priests, whose timidity permitted the two condemned prisoners to escape. Intensively scanning the waters, Tulu concluded,
"They could not possibly have survived the shark-infested waters of the South Sea, and I think I clearly see evidence that they were torn to pieces."
An abnormally large pool of blood floated oddly at the top of the water.
"Yes, definitely yes. Bless the divine circles, they are dead."
Demdem huffed.
Sweet divinity, eaten by ferocious sharks, I would not wish such a fate upon them, even though they are enemies of Makana.
Tulu cast a disappointed glare at Demdem.
"Demdem, this is not a time for your foolish compassion."
Outwardly, the elephant blushed out of embarrassment. Inwardly, he thought,
You old fool. I wasn't the one who bungled this ill-conceived execution because I trusted ill-trained pacifist priests.
Tulu picked up a field phone receiver and spoke.
"Yes, we have confirmed that the demonic intruders have met their demise. You know what to do to finish this whole horrible affair."
He slammed down the receiver and turned to the memory guard.
"Citizen, again, Makana thanks you. Maintain your post and let me know if you see anything suspicious."
The guard respectfully bowed. "Yes, Father Brother."
"Come, Brother Demdem."
Tulu swiveled to descend the steps of the tower.
"Let us return to the capital city."
Demdem grunted.
Yes, Brother Tulu.
On the other end of Tulu's call was Fumo. He leaned against his motorcycle while a truck full of his best memory officers waited roadside. Fumo had stopped in order to talk on one of the many thoroughfare telephone posts reserved for use by the Circle of Memory in performing their defense and security functions. Fumo held a rifle in his lap while grunting into the receiver. "Yes, Brother Tulu. Yeah, okay." He slammed the receiver and shouted at his troops. "Let's go, citizens. We got our orders." Fumo slung his rifle over his back and kick-started his motorcycle that responded with a thunderous purr. While roaring ahead of the truck, Fumo thought, "After this crazy shit, I must tell the Council of Tulu's treachery. This must end." The morning of the next day, indeed, there was war. Astride a white steed and clad in his field marshal armor and battle regalia, General Uhsa-Lata was a splendid sight to behold. In one hand, he carried a ceremonial gold sword, and in the other, he carried the mace of royal authority granted by Lord Regent Ko-Toure. Uhsa-Lata demonstrated his equestrian mastery in that he stayed balanced perfectly upon his horse, although his hands did not touch the reins. For generations, generals of Rakana had displayed their symbolic warrior virility by marching their troops into battle formation carrying a sword and a mace in each hand, balanced in their saddles by only the press of their loins. This display was supposed to buoy the morale of their troops. It was supposed to symbolize the invincibility of their cause. Uhsa-Lata, Colonel Commander Lago, and Captain Rafaro rode ahead of a legion of the finest Royal Red Guard. Then, Uhsa-Lata shouted to the mighty host of an army he had assembled.
Hear me, proud warriors of the Fire Realm! Today, we avenge the treachery of High Lord Quan-Tu and West Idari Province.
There was an enormous cheer.
How dare these disloyal dogs kidnap and possibly kill our beloved Monarch Oto-Mani the 33rd? A good, compassionate, and most wise emancipator.
Uhsa-Lata shoots a glance at the thousands of Aduma at the front lines who roared fiercely. The general continued.
So, fight like men worthy to be in the sovereign's army, the monarch's legions, and may Mother Oto-Ma and all other deeds record your other celestial sisters today upon the universal ones of glory!
A thunderous storm of warrior cheers rumbled across the plain, so loudly that many thousand paces away, even High Lord Quan-Tu heard it in the depths of his provincial palace. The troops were the best soldiers culled from the most skilled and fierce warriors of the realm, who served as the elite cavalry and infantry troops of the sovereign. The ground shook from the thousands of hooves and sandaled feet that struck as they thundered in the direction of the Otio province and West Idari borderlands. Once again, the two most ancient rivals of the Fire Realm assembled on the field of battle. Facing General Uhsa-Lata, the hero, the military paragon of the Third Civil War, the army of West Idari knew they were outmatched as well as outnumbered. Aduma recruited shock troops and militia with their long, fearsome locks, full beards, and battled scarred shields and blades marched in lockstep with the Red Guards, and reinforced the reputation of the legions of the monarch as the superior fighting force of the land. As a badge of honor and courage, the Aduma wore no helmets so to not hide the glory of their radiant locks. Their goddess-blessed hair would protect their heads. After all, they wore their hair braided in variants of the same divine style as Mother Oto-Ma. How could they be defeated? For 2 bloody days, the two armies charged and countercharged with their most veteran infantry. Ghastly rivers of blood and fire inundated the ground as thousands of shields and swords collided with and clanked against each other, a deafening cacophony of metallic clatter. Wave after wave of warriors were committed to the fight in the hope of breaking the lines of the others. Archers and spear throwers, men of deadly accuracy, fired volley after volley of arrows and javelins, raining down killing strikes upon the West Idari infantry, no matter how they scrambled to shield themselves from the onslaught. Catapults fired furious rounds of firestones, exploding upon impact and spraying blood, bones, and guts in a myriad of directions in a horridly gory scene of screaming death. They fired upon enemy lines, and once the Rakani army advanced and gained ground, the great artillery repositioned and fired upon the city walls and sent payloads inside the city, setting buildings on fire. So, no matter the courage and stamina of the West Idari soldiers, the Red Guard and Aduma warriors beat back their lines or sent them reeling in retreat because they simply did not have the swordplay skill in hand-to-hand combat of the sovereign's troops. Lord Quan-Tu, his generals and commanders knew that Uhsa-Lata's soldiers were superior fighters and thus expected a protracted battle. But they were not ready for just how handily the men of the royal province of Oto dispensed with martial justice and slaughtered battalions of their fighters. Uhsa-Lata's brilliant facility upon the battlefield was on display. He arranged his troops into formations that gave them unparalleled advantages. He ordered charges and countercharges in ways that committed the enemy into the fight to expose their flanks or rears, thus chopping them into pieces. He ordered his cavalry to charge just when spear defenders were most vulnerable, and in all of these ways, High Lord Quan-Tu and his generals were flummoxed and shown to be fatally amateur. Quan-Tu and his commanders would pay dearly for their mistakes. Quan-Tu raged.
Uhsa-Lata's Aduma. Damn fire-pucking monkey savages. They are decimating our troops. They are reaping vengeance because Uhsa-Lata has lied. Made them believe I held their cousins in bondage longer than the monarch allowed. Dumb-ass monkeys.
None of Quan-Tu's generals responded because now he was not only being a racist churl, but was lying. On the 3rd day of siege battle, the Rakani artillery finally pierced the city gates at precise breaking points. The gate and one section of enormous wall came tumbling down. Into the breach, General Uhsa-Lata ordered his most ferocious Aduma cavalry. They swiftly mowed down or pinned to the wall unsuspecting enemy infantry, shocked by the chasm that now existed in what was once a formidable rampart. Muscle-burly horsemen with long flowing locks and broadswords poured into the breach and dodged most, if not all, of the arrows fired from West Idari archers atop the city wall battlements. The West Idari soldiers fell back, trying to regroup against screaming Aduma warriors. But like a crack in a mighty dam, they could not hold against a force as mighty as an angry river. Aduma cavalry pressed the advantage and surged forward down the grand avenue of the West Idari capital city on fire. They drove back soldiers that days before valiantly fought in the plains outside the city gates. Green banners bearing golden crop emblems hung from the monumental buildings as mute reminders that this city was the once prosperous breadbasket of the realm. Off in the distance is the High Lord's palace, but amidst darkened skies, small spires of fire reflect the chaos, destruction, and brutal momentum of a city falling to Uhsa-Lata's invading army. After brutal hand-to-hand combat, the monarch's warriors rapidly captured ground that led them right to the very steps of Lord Quan-Tu's palace. A morbid carpet of dead men, vastly green but mixed with flecks of red, laid before the green-bannered columns and parapets of the grand house of power of the province. The West Idari men could no longer defend the ground, the turrets, or city walls they occupied against the steel and fire of the sovereign's warriors. The Aduma were relentless. The West Idari men wavered, began to retreat, and then en masse fled from the field of battle in terror. Battered and bruised, remnants of the West Idari army surrendered unconditionally to Uhsa-Lata and his commanders. The supreme commander of the sovereign's legions had won a legendary victory. It was so great that there were murmurs comparing Uhsa-Lata to the great Oto-Mani I, the great conqueror, the founder of the house of Otokanza and its Rakana dynasty. Smoke, fire, and burnt flesh polluted nostrils with a horrid, acrid aroma as the troops of General Uhsa-Lata began to cheer from their ruthless triumphs. While the generals and commanders of West Idari surrendered in order to spare the lives of their remaining bedraggled troops, High Lord Quan-Tu refused to concede. He had to be dragged out of his palace, shackled, beaten, and infuriated by the surrender of his army. Even while his commanders bent their knee to Uhsa-Lata by handing over their swords, Quan-Tu and his first minister sneered in contempt, for he knew just how dishonorable of a man Uhsa-Lata was. He loudly protested.
You and Ko-Toure are ass-licking demon dogs. You will ruin the realm. This war is unjust. It is based on a lie. You've destroyed a great province, a great people based on your lie. You know that the sovereign is nowhere in West Idari. You bastards!
Uhsa-Lata replied stoically, I will permit you a moment to spew your venom because you are already condemned. Then the general shouted an order. Bring it forward! Captain Rafaro stepped forward, winsome but battle-weary. He knelt to one knee while he outstretched his hands to hold a venerated object. Lord General, after a search of the High Lord Quan-Tu's private chambers, my men retrieved this. All were amazed, most especially High Lord Quan-Tu. Uhsa-Lata deviously grinned.
Very good, my good captain.
The object was the fire gold diadem of the house of Otokanza. It is the crown all monarchs wear at their coronation, and is considered a central emblem of monarchical authority. Quan-Tu sputtered with rage.
Goddess damn you, that is yet another lie of yours, Uhsa-Lata. You stole the sovereign's crown and planted it in my palace to lend credence to the preposterous tale that I kidnapped Oto-Mani. How in the pucking world? I tried to send a peace offering to you and your master, Ko-Toure, and you two cruelly sent back my messenger.
Uhsa-Lata cut him off.
How a man dishonors his sovereign is beyond my mind to imagine. You West Idarians have always hated the royal family. You hated the decree to free the Aduma. It disrupted the slave labor you needed to grow fat from the crops you sell at inflated prices. And so you took advantage of the recent chaos to dispose of His Majesty in the hopes.
Quan-Tu objected.
How and why would I bring such destruction upon my house and lands by harming a beloved monarch who's been blessed by Mother Oto?
Uhsa-Lata spat out the words.
By the royal authority conveyed upon me, Uhsa-Lata, supreme commander of the monarch's legions, I pronounce you guilty of the divine ultimate crime of kidnapping sovereign Oto-Mani, 33rd of that name, and...
Quan-Tu screeched.
Puck you, Uhsa-Lata. Puck you, you bastard. You're a nasty, freakish homosexual who...
Uhsa-Lata panicked and shouted at Colonel Commander Lagon.
Stop his heresy. Carry out the judgment.
Puzzled expressions creased the faces of Lagon and Rafaro. Lagon spoke up. But my Lord General, the law plainly states. Uhsa-Lata shouted.
I said, carry out divine judgment.
Quan-Tu rambled on, undeterred.
And everyone knows you hate Oto-Mani because, like you, he too is a homosexual. And that is...
Now, Lagon.
In the flash of an instant, Rafaro drew Lagon's sword from its sheath. With one clean arc of motion, Rafaro cleaved Lord Quan-Tu's head from its body in a gory, flesh-crushing chop. Blood splattered everywhere, while the head rolled like an errant melon toward Uhsa-Lata, startling his horse. All were visibly shocked, most especially Rafaro and Lagon. A deafening silence smothered all present. The only audible sound was the soft sobbing of Quan-Tu's first minister, Nemi, and the sound of smoldering buildings burning in the distance. On glorious succeeding day, a long phalanx of red guards in dress armor paraded aside the surviving nobles and military commanders of the defeated West Idari. These defeated men who walked in step with the victorious army were dirty, weary, and laden with shackles as they shuffled down the grand avenue of the capital. Crowds hissed, booed, and threw humiliating objects at the conquered in order to denigrate them as disloyal rabble. First Minister Nemi had met the same fate as his Lord Quan-Tu, but the people loved the general. So, it appeared, many cheered him in this triumphant procession. Even more people gathered than when Uhsa-Lata previously paraded to go to war. The general returned to Rakana City ahead of an enormous parade of tribute. Throngs of citizens lined streets decked out in red and gold banners so to cheer and heap adulation as well as cast garlands upon the carpeted pathway of the great hero of the realm. But not everyone was singing the general's praises. Most noticed that partway through the parade the general called Captain Rafaro, a full-blooded Aduma, to ride by his side. Colonel Commander Lagon was nowhere in sight. But why not? It was Rafaro who valiantly led the Aduma warrior troops into battle. It was Rafaro's men who discovered the stolen fire gold diadem in Lord Quan-Tu's palace, and it was Rafaro who had the obedience and temerity to carry out Uhsa-Lata's order for divine judgment, and thus summarily executed Quan-Tu, and eventually Nemi. Two Aduma men who were perennial skeptics whispered, as the general and Captain Rafaro approached rapidly. The first man said, "Where's the sovereign? Didn't Uhsa-Lata tell all those Aduma fools who signed up to fight that they were going to rescue the sovereign?" His associate agreed. "Good question. Uhsa-Lata and Ko-Toure pretend like they care, but the great emancipator is likely dead. Oto-Mani's sin was that he freed us. Like his brother, he too is likely dead under mysterious circumstances." The first man whispered in an even more hushed tone. "And look at the Aduma sycophant, Rafaro. He licks Uhsa-Lata's boots like an obedient dog. But he'll never be a general, though he is smart and can fight, so I hear. No, they'll never promote a firepucker Aduma like him." As a war prize, Uhsa-Lata delivered an enormous cache of fire gold and jewels confiscated from the treasury of Quan-Tu. High Lord Ko-Toure was convinced he must make an example of the West Idarian nobles to demonstrate his strength. All other High Lords and other nobles of Rakana took note of how Uhsa-Lata with Ko-Toure's blessing decimated Quan-Tu in his rule of West Idari. They feared that they might be next. Therefore, many High Lords and other nobles outwardly praised the Supreme Commander's victory and re-pledged fealty to the Fire Realm. To pay tribute to General Uhsa-Lata's victory over West Idari, Lord Regent Ko-Toure ordered 3 days of games and festive celebration. The Lord Regent made it publicly clear that he was appreciative of the sacrifice and military brilliance of the hero of the realm. But the truth is that Ko-Toure had little more than suspicion of and enmity toward Uhsa-Lata, and the feeling was mutual. A day before the games, Uhsa-Lata met with Ko-Toure in a smaller throne room. The general wore a magnificent dress uniform of fire red and gold velvet as accompanied by his honor guard, also magnificently attired. The general marched in through the doors of the smaller throne room with all the confidence and swagger of the victorious hero he was acclaimed to be upon every street corner of the capital. The Lord Regent thought to himself,
Such a cocky, preening rooster.
Uhsa-Lata could not but notice that the Lord Regent had members of his personal house guard, in their orange and copper armor, standing nearby. Did Ko-Toure expect he would need bodyguards to protect him from Uhsa-Lata? Ko-Toure greeted him with all the warmth he could fabricate.
Lord General, I heartily commend you for your glorious victory over Quan-Tu and the West Idari threat. The people are rightly joyous, and I join them in their elation.
Thank you, Lord Regent.
Uhsa-Lata responded casually.
And we are forever grateful that you delivered such an enormous war prize of fire gold and jewels to replenish the coffers of the royal province.
though I dare say that the capital city of West Idari will need to be rebuilt after your men were entirely too rambunctious in giving the enemy no haven.
Uhsa-Lata stiffened.
We tried our best to preserve what we could of the city and spare civilian casualties, so to not inflict undue pain upon subjects of the Fire Realm.
Ko-Toure dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand.
Yes, I'm sure you did.
Then Ko-Toure steepled his fingers with his elbows upon the armrests of the throne, as though weighing his next words.
However, I do have a concern that I must respectfully share with you, Lord General.
Uhsa-Lata gritted his teeth.
Yes, my lord.
Ko-Toure proceeded with a predator's caution.
You told me, and you told the people that you would not only defeat the traitorous rulers of West Idari, but you would also bring back our sovereign, the great emancipator to the Aduma.
Ko-Toure was clearly trying to undermine the victory of Uhsa-Lata by use of the very same fabrication he and Uhsa-Lata concocted to cover Oto-Mani's disappearance. Uhsa-Lata thought.
I knew you would try to pull some bullshit, you rabid dog.
But the general's face did not betray his thoughts. He merely replied through an artificial grin.
You're quite right, Lord Regent. But my men did locate this in Quan-Tu's palace. Bring it forth.
One of his honor guards took a knee as he held out the monarch's diadem, which had been polished to a high, radiant luster. Ko-Toure's face remained stoic, while inside he raged. Heads would roll from no one telling him that the general supposedly found a crown in West Idari that Ko-Toure knew had not been missing in the first place. Ko-Toure feigned surprised.
Oh, the sovereign's fire gold diadem. I'm very glad your men recovered this sacred relic of royal authority.
Ko-Toure knew Uhsa-Lata was lying, but both men needed to maintain this circular artifice lest their entire edifice of lies come tumbling down around them. Uhsa-Lata smiled like a viper.
Yes, I agree, Lord Regent. It is fortunate we found this evidence that makes it clear that I was justified in ordering Quan-Tu's summary execution.
Weakly, Ko-Toure tried to object.
Now, about the execution of Quan-Tu, I am very concerned that
Uhsa-Lata did not let him finish.
Of course, if you want me to continue the search for the sovereign, dead or alive, given this incontrovertible evidence of Quan-Tu having kidnapped him, I very humbly ask if I may have a temporary appointment as Governor General of West Idari.
Ko-Toure stuttered.
What? Well,
Uhsa-Lata continued.
My lord, it is only a temporary measure, but I'm sure you would agree that I cannot possibly effect a successful search for our sovereign from Rakana City.
Ko-Toure lowered his hands in speechlessness. How could he refuse such a war prize to the hero of the realm, and not cause immediate dissension in the ranks of the fearsome Red Guard, the Aduma shock troops, and the population at large? He shot a glance at Uhsa-Lata's honor guard and said,
General, I'll certainly consider your proposal.
And slumped into the red cushions of his ornate chair.
Now, good people, please like, comment, and subscribe to catch the next thrilling episode of Red Circles of Fire.